Hi everybody, welcome back to the 7 Pieces of True Healing series, of course. Yay! We're on day 5 already. Like, holy crap, it's going by fast. So the 5th piece of the 7 pieces I will present to you today. So we've had a blast covering the 4 pieces so far that we've covered, and if you have missed any of those sessions, I truly recommend going back and watching them. Your time is valuable, and so I don't say that lightly. There's some really epic stuff in there that I highly suggest checking out. Just to give a quick recap, Roberta's back! Hi, sweetheart. Thank you for being here again. Yay! I love you and your awesome hair. I was telling you, I had my haircut just like yours a few years ago, and it was so much fun. And seeing you the other day, I was like, oh, do I want it back? And my husband's like, dude, if you cut your hair again, like, I don't want to hear about it. Because I love it, and then I complain about it. But I'm also like an extremist. Like, it was down past my breasts, and I donated it. And then, so it was like one extreme to the other. So anyway, I love Roberta and her awesome hair. Thank you. And her beautiful spirit. So again, just quick recap of what we have been covering where we've done 4 pieces of true healing so far. Today is day 5. There are 7 in total. So we did deep and whole embodiment was the first piece, the first day. And these are always never, sometimes maybe. They are not in any particular order, because healing in life is never in any particular order. However, starting with embodiment is always, like, everything needs to start from embodiment. So in that session, we discussed what it means to truly be embodied, because that's kind of a buzzword, what causes us to be disconnected from our bodies. And I shared a guided meditation to communicate with your body and to source wisdom and source information. Hey, Frankie, thank you for being here. So yes, the truth always lives in your body. That's where it is. In the second session, the second piece of true healing, it was creativity and sacred sexuality. And we explored how the two are linked, and the biggest killer of creativity and vital primal life force, and how to allow yourself to open up to receive pleasure and to know what is truly pleasurable to you. Because if we don't know what's truly pleasurable to us and what we need, it's going to be a really difficult road. I shared an ancient mudra to support receptivity and dropping into lunar energy in that session. And then in session 3, it was exercising your personal power, and we explored what true power actually is. We often have a very skewed view of power with what we have been shown and taught. And so we delved into what true power actually is, how that relates to true healing, and how we can step into radical self-responsibility and recognize ourselves as the ultimate creators of our experience. And from there, begin to recreate our experience in our lives and our physical bodies and health and relationships and work in the world in a manner that we actually intend. Because if we've created all of this from a place that was, maybe a little more sleeping than awake, like, imagine what you can create from a very conscious, awake place, right? Like, we are very powerful. So that was session 3 with the 3rd piece of healing. Yesterday was all about, you were there, Devon. What was it? Yesterday was all about unconditional self-love and self-acceptance, and the power that has in our journeys and in our lives and in our path to true healing, and how only from that place can we truly give it to others. We talked a lot about the power of forgiveness. I shared some super vulnerable stuff. There have been amazing sessions. Bottom line, like I said, your time is valuable, and so I don't say it lightly when I recommend that you go check those out if you have missed them. So what is true healing? And healing is another one of those buzzy buzzwords that's just like, healing, yay, healing everywhere. And true healing is about working with our challenges. It's about working with our symptoms and befriending our trauma and our grief and our pain points and really getting in there. It's not about pacifying those things or doing whatever it takes to like make them go away quickly so we can bypass and brush past them and get back to the pretty stuff that we like. That's not what true healing is. It's not about beating our symptoms into submission, right? That's that kind of like skewed power that we've been talking about. That's not true power. That's not true healing. True healing is an integrative, holistic approach that must encompass all levels of our being and really requires us to be with those things that are really painful that we might not want to be with. Because through those things, your power, your gifts, your purpose, that's where it all lives. And it's being with those things that you're resisting that are going to create the healing and the physical experience that you're craving in life. True healing is about understanding my favorite catchphrase. Like I said, I'm going to tattoo this on my forehead. The subtle creates the gross. Period. The subtle creates the gross. And so by understanding that everything experienced on the gross, tangible, physical, three-dimensional experience of your life is created by your subtle building blocks, which are your emotional, mental, and spiritual or energetic body. If you don't like spiritual, your energetic, more subtle, nuanced, the most subtle of the subtle of your subtle bodies. These are your building blocks of your physical experience. So the subtle is always creating the gross. And like I've said, if that sounds too woo for you, we can look at it in your physical body. You are literally trillions of tiny little subtle cells that have created a gross Frankie or Roberta or Devon, a tree in a forest, right? There's thousands of them. So the subtle is always creating the gross. Everything that's happening behind the scenes of me is creating and recreating and regenerating my physical experience. So whether that's from a health standpoint in my physical body, can I steal that quote, please? As long as you give me credit, put a little, by Devon on there, you can steal it. So think of yourselves real quick. I'm going to get into the fifth piece. I always feel like I'm just hand puppeting away when I'm here. No. So think of yourselves as having 4 bodies. Your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, right? So the 3 back end ones, the intangible, are the subtle. Your physical is your gross experience. And the old beliefs, mindsets, habits, patterns, grief, trauma, ancestral wounds, every single thing, everything is dictated and related to these subtle things that are creating your physical experience on Earth. So I think we're pretty clear on that. So how can fixating on the surface challenge and only looking at that and doing anything we can to fix it and make it go away, how is that ever going to get us anywhere? It's not. That's why so many of us are continuing to feel stuck and experiencing ill health or challenging relationships or not feeling purposeful in our work or, whatever the case may be. It's because the fixation as a society is on the surface. So we just hop from thing to thing, from diet to diet, from workout trend to workout trend, or try this thing, try that thing, instead of understanding if, the physical body, for example, is constantly regenerating itself, then why, pray tell, is it continuing to recreate and regenerate in the same manner that is causing me dis-ease? Because the other things back there that are driving the recreation and are driving everything that I do on a daily basis is the epicenter of dysfunction. So that's what true healing is about. It's allowing us to be our own healers and to truly alchemize our trauma and our pain points into wisdom, into gifts. So There you go. And without further ado, piece 5. So the 5th of the 7 pieces today is compassionate self-expression. Compassionate self-expression. And I'm wearing one of my favorite necklaces. This is raw turquoise. And turquoise is excellent for the throat and the throat chakra and for expressing. So, do you effortlessly express yourself? Or do you withhold your truth and stifle your wisdom and your opinions and your beliefs? Or maybe somewhere in the middle. Maybe it depends on the day or the phase of the moon or who you're around, right? But we tend to, for the most part, fall into one category or the other. There are some people that just, like, they don't give up. They'll just, they're just raunchy, say whatever's on their mind. And then some people have a panic attack if they're, like, gonna order a coffee at a coffee shop. And then there's it's a spectrum. There's varying degrees. And many of us, when it comes to expressing our needs or sharing ideas, and especially, many of my clients and people that I kick it with in the social spheres, we are entrepreneurs, we're light workers, we're conscious entrepreneurs. We are very sensitive souls, and so it can feel pretty scary to express in that manner, especially since many of us are challenging the current status quo. We're a bit mavericky. We're mavericks in sensitive bodies and with sensitive souls. We're a very interesting bunch. So many of us are absolutely scared shitless of expressing ourselves. We don't feel safe to do so. We have a variety of stories around why we can or cannot share, and we fear being judged or kicked out of our tribes, which is like the scariest thing for a human being. It's like, oh, I'm gonna be kicked out of the tribe, which is very reptilian brain. It goes back to like way back in the day when that would have been the scariest thing in the world, because it would have meant death and no safety and no food and no cave to sleep in. It was horrible. So that still lives in us and is a very real fear. So it's not so much like when you really dissect, am I scared of what people would think? It's deeper than that and it's older than that. So when we can kind of start to understand it, it loses its power. And there again is that an example of that subtle creating the gross and going down and digging into something deeper. So all of that aside, like that's cute and that's nice, and we have compassion for these pieces of ourselves that are scared, but we must speak up and share our wisdom and express our needs and express our boundaries. Expression is detoxification for the subtle realms of your existence. So nobody ever talks about that part when they talk about detox. And as somebody who works with herbs and nutrition, and whenever I have clients who are just, again, fixating on that physical challenge and want to do a detox. Well, what are you doing to detox the rest of you, right? The other bodies, the other pieces. So expression is detoxification for the subtle realms. It allows you to then effortlessly create the physical experience that you desire because you are expressing. So you've gotten very clear and embodied. You are creative and allowing yourself to receive pleasure. And you're exercising your personal power. You're doing it from a loving, kind heart. And then you're bringing it all into manifestation. So all of those divinely given ideas, those unmet needs, those crossed boundaries, all of those things that you wanted to share but didn't, they're still energetically living in you. Hey, Tori. They're still energetically living in you because they arose. They had an intention. They are inside of you. You had a thought. You had every intention of doing something, and then you stifled it. So that energy is still inside of you. It's very much still a part of you. It hasn't been let out. There's also a link between unspoken truth and thyroid disorders. Yeah, let that sink in. And so many of my female clients in particular, because it affects females more than males, experience hypothyroidism. And when I start to learn more about them and we dive deeper, I also learn that they have a lot of unmet needs and a lot of unexpressed boundaries that have been crossed or are currently being crossed. And they also have a lot of unshared wisdom inside of them. And so they're literally swimming in toxicity and trapped energy. And these things that long to be expressed, like I said, they're just energy that is, Roberta, you have hypothyroidism. Yeah, it's so common. And it's like normalized, like, oh, it's so common. Of course you do. It's like normalized. But no, it's not normal. And this is part of the reason I'm so passionate about what I do is we normalize things that like just shouldn't be normal, you know? Like, oh, you've got digestive issues. It's normal, right? Like, who doesn't have digestive issues? Oh, you have adrenal problems and you don't sleep and you're like super stressed out. Welcome to planet Earth on 2018. It's just normal. Like, no, it's not. It's not okay. Frankie, you have some thyroid issues too. Yeah. And Renee, hi. Yes. That's so sad. There's my mother had thyroid issues. I luckily have escaped that so far, knock on some wood. But it's amazing. There's, 5, 6 of us women around here, and that many of us have that. Yeah. So these things that are inside of us that haven't been expressed are longing to be expressed, like I said. And when we don't move that energy, it lives in our bodies. And because it hasn't been able to run its course, it's just sitting there and it's leaching vital life force from us. And that vital life force is intended to be used by our bodies for things like hormone function, which the thyroid is definitely part of. But, thyroid hormone, there is thyroid hormone receptor on every single cell of your body. Just to put that in perspective, there aren't receptors for, certain nutrients or other things that we think would be like super vital on all cells. That's literally like the only thing that is on every single cell. So that's how important this is. And it regulates everything. And when we think about it more in depth like that, and since, there's so many hypothyroid sufferers here, I just lost my train of thought. Crap. The thyroid regulates everything. Expression, you self-expressing, regulating, it'll come back. It'll come back. I'm like really excited today. I need to woo-saw. So, the vital life force that would be used to regulate your hormones, to keep your body healthy, is going to support these misaligned subtle realms. And we're also having subconscious emotional responses to these things that are still living inside of us, right? That's when the anger and the resentment and all of these other things start to build up. And then we have the mental body story around it, like, oh God, Devon, why couldn't you just express that? Or, God, this person really sucks and I would love to express myself and I can't do it. So there's this internal conflict happening because that stagnant energy is there. Then you're having an emotional response to it on top of it, which then creates a physiological response in your body, which then creates a stress response in your body and wreaks even more havoc on your system. And the thing also with hypothyroidism is like 99% of cases, and yes, I just pulled that stat out of my ass, however, it sounds pretty accurate, a high percentage of cases of hypothyroidism, it is secondary hypothyroidism because of adrenal insufficiency or adrenal fatigue, which is, it's adrenal insufficiency. They're the same thing. And stress is a killer of the thyroid. So like the stress that comes from not expressing or from staying in an unacceptable situation or from knowing you have all of this truth and this wisdom inside that you are like longing to share, and then there's all the other pieces associated with it, like it's not safe or I don't know what I'm doing, or I suck. It's just like compounding over time, because stress and trauma and grief, all these things, they stack, they layer on top of each other. So kind of a tangent, but that's just another example of the importance of expression. I guess real quick, I'll add, I had a client who, she had hypothyroidism, and hers was so, I want to say annoying, because I'm sure it was annoying for her, because on paper, all of her labs, nothing added up, nothing made sense. I'm internally screaming with excitable recognition right there. Awesome, Roberta. I love that. So on paper, my client's labs, nothing added up, nothing made sense, because, I mean, I'll keep it, I won't go down the science train, but typically hypothyroidism will follow, when you get the full panels done, and full panels, people, please, if your doctor is just doing TSH, like, no. No, ask for the free T3 and the free T4 and the reverse T3 to see if there's that adrenal component, because high stress will yield high reverse T3, because yes, the free T3 will be there for your body to use. The stress hormones are high, which is then like, oh no, we need this vital life force, this free T3 that would feed every single cell in your body. We actually need this for other stuff, because, you know, Roberta or Devon or whoever is like being chased by a tiger, because that's how your body registers stress. So we can't do these other things. We can't function like that right now. So then it will shift the T3 back into its unusable form. So there will be a lot of reverse T3 in the blood. So anyway, none of her stuff made sense. And, you know, there was a lot of stress, a lot of things, and we dug deeper, did some energy work. I work a lot with plant spirit medicine and flower essences, and I was supporting her physical body. We were on, you know, specific herbal protocols and lifestyle practices, and nothing was adding up. And she had this dream one night and was able to remember a very traumatic instance that had happened to her in high school that involved some sexual misconduct that she had suppressed. And the body is brilliant. I mean, this thing, brilliant is almost an insult. I wish there was a word that was bigger than brilliant. It is just, it's amazing. And it will protect you until you're ready to deal with something. The brain, the mind, the subconscious will suppress these things that are too painful. However, that energy, that thing that is not being expressed, is still living in the system and is creating the lens through which you view the world and how you interact in the world and how you view yourself and everything around you. So for her, she's clearly operating subconsciously and not consciously understanding why, operating from a place of fear and from lack of safety, and everything about her and the way that she carried herself and the way that she lived and her scarcity beliefs all fit into this. And I knew that there was something deeper, and I knew it would reveal itself. So it finally did. And she worked with that and also received some additional support. And we continued our work together. And she went back for labs, and it was like night and day. So this shit is powerful, and it's real. And your body is powerful, and your subconscious is powerful. And they work together to always have your best interest in mind, even if it doesn't always manifest that way. And that's where true healing and all of these pieces and these 7 parts come together for you to integratively and holistically look at yourself and your life and take charge and be empowered and not accept normal things that are not normal as normal. And yeah. All right. Can't access them in the UK. What can't you access in the UK? Hey, Millie. Okay, where were we? I love this stuff. I love it. I love it. So, right, the stuff is still in there. All of these things are still living in the body and having an energetic and a physiological response. Like, it's all one and the same. Energy isn't really separate from physiology, but because of the way we've been taught and operate, I kind of separate them when I'm explaining these things, but you are energy, and so thoughts are energy, and experiences are energy, and they all are creating and vibrating and making you, and making your experience and your choices and your thoughts and everything else like that. And we have a set amount of life force energy, so don't misuse it, right? Like, we have a matter cannot be created nor destroyed. That's the principle of the law of conservation of mass. So matter cannot be created nor destroyed. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So remember that, and let's use it wisely, because there's a set amount of it. And so diverting it to stifling your truth and keeping yourself stagnant is doing a lot more harm than good. Life is movement. And when we resort to, so now I'm shifting into times when we're like knowingly withholding our truth. When it comes to the example I gave with the client, sometimes we're not fully conscious and we have to do some digging. But now I'm shifting gears and getting more into when we are knowingly, like, willfully disobeying ourselves. Like, no, I am not going to show up and share this. Like, no, I am not going to tell this person how I feel. No, I'm not going to say what I really need, or stick up for myself, or whatever the case may be. So life is movement, and when we resort to this stagnation and this suppression, we're essentially putting ourselves in a perpetual state of like swimming upstream, just like by going against everything that is natural and flowy and vital. You're just kind of swimming upstream and exhausting the shit out of yourself. And whether it's of a diagnosable disease or it's simply dis-ease, the absence of ease in your physical life, something is manifesting that. And that's where we get to step into that embodiment piece always. That's always our starting point, to get very clear and to hear truth. Then we get to exercise personal power and take radical self-responsibility once we've recognized what's not working. We get to step into our creativity and our pleasure and understand, like, okay, what is pleasurable to me? Many of us are so used to like what's not pleasurable and not receiving. Yeah? And then we get to know through the heart and accept and love ourselves fully, especially where we are right now. And yesterday's session was such fire. I really went on one about the need to love and accept yourself exactly how you are right now. So basically, express your truth. Express it. And I would also like to add that doesn't give us a free pass to do it in a super asshole way. No. I'm just expressing my truth. You suck and I hate you. Like, no, this is where that piece from yesterday really comes into play. We can give ourselves the love and acceptance, and we inevitably give it to others. So if something is long overdue being said, and I gave the story yesterday with my mother and that feminine wounding piece, it needs to come from within to ourselves first. So expressing it compassionately and with presence and with grace. And then from there, your truth is effortlessly integrated, and the confidence to express it is plenty. So all of these 7 pieces tie in together. They're all vital. They're all necessary. And we often ask ourselves, right, before doing something, like, what's the worst that could happen if I expressed this or if I shared that? And I'd really like to invite you to get in the habit of asking yourself, what's the worst that could happen if I don't? What's the worst thing that would happen if I don't show up? If I don't express this? If I don't stick up for myself? If I don't honor my boundaries? If I don't share my wisdom? What's the worst that would happen if I don't? Because essentially you're preventing lives from being changed when you don't show up and express. And it's not just, in your work or sharing your message and those things. I don't care what it is. Every single thing that you express is an opportunity. It's an invitation. It is an opportunity to inspire somebody, to teach somebody, to learn yourself, to bond more deeply. especially those uncomfortable things in relationships that you might not want to share, you're missing out on so much juice and beauty. And is it always going to be like beautiful and just everyone's going to be on this? No. And that's even more beautiful. But you're going to miss out on those juicy moments of life if you're withholding. And then there's all the other stuff we talked about too. So we talked about all the internal consequences. These are the external ones too. So think right now, what is something that you really, really, really have been wanting to express? What is something that you've wanted to share with a friend, a lover, a boss, the world? And why aren't you sharing it? And sure, what would happen if you did? What would be the worst thing that could happen? But more than that, what would be lost if you didn't? What would happen if you didn't? And I realize it might be something big, and if you're like, I ain't typing in the comments, this thing's crazy, lady. And maybe this is practice, because it's just us gals hanging out. But yeah, think about that. I love asking you guys questions towards the end of this to sit with and to meditate with. So what's something that you're not expressing? Why aren't you expressing it? What would happen if you did? And what's being lost or missed out on because you're not? For example, I started a podcast last month, and I'd been wanting to do it for a long time, and I was super nervous to put it out there, and I did it anyway. And because I got a lot to say about a lot of stuff, and so I did it, and I put it out there, and I've been doing weekly episodes. I just released episode 7 yesterday, 7 or 8. And I received a message yesterday from a woman I'd never met before. And she told me that she had just experienced a very traumatic life event and had been in kind of like full-blown shock and anxiety mode, it hadn't even been like a week, but in the days following it, she'd just been in just shock. And she couldn't sleep. And she said that she put my podcast on and listened to, at that point it was, all 6 episodes, just listened to them all in a row. And she said that she felt so nourished and calmed by, she said, my voice. I was like, well, thank you, because I'm like, my voice, and who likes the sound of their own voice? We need to learn to love the sound of our own voice. But so she liked the sound of my voice. She was nourished and calmed by it. I'm going to breathe that in. And she also said that she felt more than that, super empowered to reorient her perspective towards the situation that she was experiencing. And to come into right relationship with her ability to harvest the true gifts and the power and the invitations from this challenge and from this trauma. And that meant so much to me. I'm reading this little message, it wasn't anything long, but it was so heartfelt and so just beautiful, and I've got tears streaming down my face. And she's a fellow light worker, I found out, and she is really serious about, just, Devon, the things that you say, and this is an invitation for me, and I want to step in and see what's here and then share this, and so that meant a lot to me, and I was super stoked for her and super proud of her, because that's not easy shit. And if I had never shared and never put that podcast out there, then what? I'm not saying she couldn't have come to that conclusion or that be a part of her journey anyway. And it was able to be so maybe a little faster, maybe a little clearer. Who knows? The point is, we all need each other's medicine. Period. And like I said, I don't care if it's putting out a podcast or if it is something as simple as telling your friend that the way that he or she does X, Y, or Z makes you feel A, B, or C. I don't care what it is along that spectrum. It is all necessary. It's detoxifying for you. It is honoring you. It's strengthening your internal relationship with yourself, enhancing your self-respect, and it is strengthening and uplifting somebody else as well. Even if challenge ensues, even if somebody else listens to my podcast and is like, girl, you crazy, I don't believe anything you're saying, this shit shouldn't even be allowed to be on the air, you know, that's still a beautiful expression and an opportunity for something. So express. And it can feel a little conceited, right? Like, oh, I'm that important? Like, my opinions and expressions matter that much? Yeah, they do. It is that serious. Absolutely is. And they do. Because it's not about us. It's not just about us and our small, egoic, scared selves and the stories that we have. It's about our service to the collective at large. And our own true wholing or healing process as an act of love, like I always love talking about, to our lineage, the ones that were here before us, that we're literally made up of energetically and physically, nature and nurture, the ones who will come after us, the ones who are here. It is that big and that serious. Absolutely, hands down. So now we can recap, since we're on the fifth piece. It's about feeling embodied and clear, because true embodiment gives you truth and clarity. The truth lives in here, people. It lives in this vessel. Your body speaks truth to you. Those gut feelings, those everything, those sensations that you are experiencing, the ways in which he or she is speaking to you through symptoms like hypothyroidism, or even just achy shoulders, or headaches, or even just simple sensations that are so subtle. Everything is truth. This is where truth is. Can be a little clouded, a little off, a little skewed. Very needed, very beautiful. And this is where truth is. So it's about becoming embodied and clear. And then we get to receive pleasure and understand what is pleasurable to us and what we need and what we desire, and giving ourselves permission to then create it and receive it, like we talked about in piece 2. It's about exercising our personal power and coming into right relationship with it to strengthen our resolve, like in piece 3. And in piece 4, unconditionally loving and accepting yourself just as you are, witnessing it all, embracing it all, kind of reparenting yourself, giving yourself all that love and acceptance. And then now, with piece 5, this expression, it's about carrying yourself through the world in an empowered way, and expressing and alchemizing all of your experiences into wisdom. And that thought just flew out of my head. Okay. Breath time. And Renee, there are comments, I apologize. Renee says, I was bullied by my own family for speaking my truth, and that's when I started to shut down. It's been a difficult, long road for me, but I'm starting to get back to expressing myself. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I definitely feel that. And I honor you for expressing here. You just expressed your truth right now, girl. Absolutely. And so many of us have experiences just like that. And it's interesting, you know, we can be bullied or belittled or disrespected in some way from somebody outside our family, and it's not as impactful as when it's our family. And I think that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning about that tribal piece and that like reptilian brain part of us that makes us feel scared to express and to share, because it's like, oh God, if it goes against the grain and the status quo of my little tribe, my community, that's going to mean sure death, because they're going to kick me out. And, you know, when I say reptilian brain, I'm talking about like way back, like earliest human evolution when we were cave people, when that was scary. And being kicked out of the tribe did mean like, I'm going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger and I'm going to have no cave to sleep in. This is horrible. So those types of betrayals are kind of twofold. One, there's that fear of like, but I belong here. This is my family. I don't want to be kicked out. And then there's that, you're my family. This is a betrayal. So it's a double whammy. And betrayals, like we talked about in the second session with creativity and sacred sexuality, betrayals result in shame and guilt, because we'll internalize, especially as sensitive and empathic beings, we'll internalize the betrayal. So even though the other person was the betrayer and, you know, we're the ones being hurt, there's this tendency to internalize and to almost make it like about us. So we'll feel shame and guilt. And that is the biggest killer of creativity and sacred sexuality. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen that one. That's the biggest killer. So yes, bullying from family is definitely the most challenging of all, with the biggest impacts. And it's been a difficult, long road for me, but I'm starting to get back to expressing myself. And that's where I invite you to check out the fourth piece. That's where that self-love and self-acceptance can really come in. Because if we're not totally loving and accepting and clear, like where we are right now, right here, it's really difficult to move forward. And to move forward from a place of love and openness to the future. Hey, Allie, thank you for being here. It's really difficult to move forward from love because we're still kind of operating out of fear and running from the past. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else want to share anything? I would just love to, I always close these with, I'm going to have to go back and watch these. Thank you, Renee. Yeah, I really, like I've said, I know our time is valuable and there's some good stuff on there. I don't toot my horn easily either, so that says a lot. But yes, I love sharing an exercise at the end of all of these to deepen into the teaching and the concept. So before I share that, if anybody else has anything that they would love to express on this day of expression and celebrating our truths and honoring whatever wants to come through, this is a safe space to witness and to share. And if anyone does any type of bullying up in here, I don't stand for that. But I attract good, high vibe people anyway, so this is a loving space. Okay. Well, you can still comment away, but I'm going to go into the exercise. So, like I said, I've shared one at the end of each of these sessions, and I've done a guided meditation. We've played with mudras. We've played with breath work exercises. I gave you a beautiful practice yesterday to go with the self-love piece and the self-acceptance piece. And it was one, if you go watch that video, it was one we couldn't actually do together because Facebook might have put me in jail, the Facebook jail. Roberta, got caught up with kids, but big thank you. I'm expressing my own capacity to take care of myself. Beautiful. Love it. And I imagine with that comes expressing your needs and maybe requesting support from others so that you can better take care of yourself. Okay. So for today, I'd love to do another breath exercise. It's like a vocally loud breath exercise, if you will. So it massages the throat. For those of you that are still here that talks about having thyroid issues, it is really nourishing to the thyroid, massages the thyroid, massages the throat, and lets us hear ourselves. And like I said earlier when I was talking about my podcast, we really need to learn to love the sound of our own voice. Totally. And we need to allow it to move and to do things and explore its range and play. It's so important and very, very energetically soothing to this area and to the thyroid. So this practice also nourishes the nervous system, and we talked about that earlier, and especially its link to not just the thyroid, even though we talked about, usually hypothyroidism is secondary to adrenal insufficiency, like most of the time. And yes, I pulled that 99% stat out of my ass. However, it's really high. So the majority of cases are secondary adrenal insufficiency. So practices that nourish the nervous system, please have those in your medicine bag and refer to them daily. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or crazy. My most favorite thing in the entire world to nourish my nervous system is to lay on the floor. Just straight out. Lay on the floor and breathe. And I actually, because I love silence, like silence, I have these earmuffs. They're for, like, if you're working on a runway or are going to go shooting in a range, can't hear anything. And I will put these on and just lay on the floor. So practices that soothe your, and I'm on a tangent right now, however, practices to soothe your nervous system are so important, especially in this process of true healing. And yeah, so make sure those are in your medicine bag every day. So the practice for today, come to a seat. I assume you're already sitting, but if you're not, and if you've gone to do other things, just come back with us. Just come into your body. Maybe feel your feet on the floor. Feel your bottom supported by the chair. Relax your shoulders. Relax your belly. Relax your jaw, the muscles in your face. And turn your awareness to your breath. And without much effort, just gently begin to lengthen your inhale and your exhale. And on the inhales, feel your chest rise, your rib cage expand. And on the exhales, empty out completely, pulling belly button in, rib cage collapses back. And take a few more cycles just like that. And so for this practice, if there are people around you, ignore them. It's part of that expression, part of the medicine of the practice, part of the medicine of expressing. On an inhale, fill up all the way. As you exhale, you're going to open your mouth, exhale through your mouth, and let yourself make a big old sound for the entire exhale. So it'll be like this. And you can play with it and make noise, have fun, play. Feel your body completely loosen with it. Like it's just everything. Downshifts and chills. And that was medicine for me. I don't think I've ever done that in front of people, let alone on a video that's gonna live on my group's Facebook wall forever. So play with that. Feel how it relaxes the jaw and the throat. Really let yourself just go with it. Like I said, body collapse. You can allow yourself to stand while you do this. I love doing that too. Stand up and just kind of fall forward. Get your whole body involved, bringing that embodiment element into it. Yeah. So, that's what we got for today, my loves. The 5th piece of true healing. Woohoo! I'll be back for tomorrow's piece, and then Thursday, the solstice, will be the end. So I cannot recall what time tomorrow's is. I'll post it, and it's in the events. I purposefully staggered these so that people could join live who, you know, maybe would have conflicts with one particular time. And again, if you have any questions or feedback on this or any of the replays, like, just because it's no longer live, I am so here for all of you this week. I am very passionate about these topics and shifting our relationship to trauma and to physical symptoms and challenges and bringing about true whole healing. So any questions or any feedback, any insights, I've appreciated everything so far. I've received a lot of private messages and beautiful engagement in the videos thus far. So thank you all so much for being with me and for walking with me. And I love you. Have a beautiful rest of your day and express and breathe and Millie, this exercise was amazing. Thank you. I'll watch the part of the video that I missed. I have multiple sclerosis, so the nervous system thing interests me a lot. Yeah, that would be very helpful. It's helpful for all of us to really soothe the nervous system, and especially in MS, very, very helpful as well. Yeah. Yay! All right, keep them coming, y'all, with the questions. I will totally be here all week. Love you.